Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Delphi Economic Forum. We'll move now to a discussion with the CEO of Phillip Morris International, one of the largest tobacco companies in the world, which actually, I think it was 2015, made a big change or decision to move from cigarettes, incrementally I guess, into smoke-free products, which is, I assume, a huge decision. And my question would be, how did you come about doing that, and how is this process going forward?
Well, today is much easier. At that time was more difficult. It took us a while to, invest behind the science and the technology and to figure it out. Is it possible to offer smokers the pleasure part of a smoking while addressing a significant negative impact with cigarette, combustible cigarette, as we know them, smokable cigarettes create on the smoker. And we're living at the times when the technologies almost can do magic, and the science can do a lot of magic as well. If you put these all things together and the willingness to question yourself and to challenge yourself, you can come up actually with the solution. So it's much easier, as I said, talk about this for us today when we are almost 7 years in a transformation. We have more than 20 million consumers of a new products coming from cigarettes who almost fully stopped smoking cigarettes. If you talk to them, they will tell you that this is the best thing which could have happened in their life. The Dicos, which is our flagship product, has changed their life. By the way, in Greece, as we know it, who was always the almost undisputed world champion in a smoking race. And not that far ago, you had more than 3 million smokers in Greece. You just today have, now you have about 2.5 million. About half a million of Greek smokers have made the much better choice. They migrated to this product. So I think there is plenty of reasons to celebrate that this is just 7 years and how far we could go.
Compared to the rest of the world, since you mentioned Greece, how are we faring? Are we more ready to move to the new products? Are we more reluctant as a society?
Actually, it may again come as a surprise because perception about the Greece and a Greece smoker is that the smokers was that they're very traditional and they will never give up smoking. And actually, if I would put out of the 70 markets in which we are present with our products today, Greece would be at the podium. So, big congratulations to the organization of Papastratos here, who obviously is on the forefront of that battle, but obviously to the environment which we have found in Greece. And I think Greece is an example of one of the few countries, unfortunately, but fortunately is the day I feel, where you have a perfect almost symbiosis between all the stakeholders who have a say in solving the problem of smoking. And obviously there is industry, there's technology, science, medical community on the one hand, but then you need the regulators, you need the government, you need other opinion leaders, scientific opinion leaders, NGOs, which all have to realize that the battle is no longer between them and us, as the tobacco industry, or some try to call us big tobacco, but the whole objective is actually how to help smokers. And Greece has created that environment, so I wouldn't be with 500,000 of the Greek consumers completely stopping smoking at this stage without this perfect symbiosis almost of the all partners.
Actually, I wanted to ask you, you invest in Greece, you're a large global company. You seem to be happy with, as you mentioned, your local people here, Papastratos, and your investment strategy is good for Greece. Coming from a Greek, it's a welcome development. How do you decide in general, let's not confine it to Greece, to move into a country, to invest in a country?
Well, we started directly to invest in Greece about 19, 20 years ago. I guess next year we'll have about the 20th anniversary of our direct investment here. Now, many of you here know better even than me that the last 20 years of Greek economy had a lot of ups and downs, enough to discourage even the bravest to pack yourself, leave and go somewhere else. However, I mean, there were few things, and I'm referring obviously to this massive economic tsunami which went through Greece, and we don't want to talk about this, but I have to remind this to people that we had, at that time at the table considerations, does it make sense to stay and continue investing, or the country is going completely underwater? But what actually helped us to make the decisions to stay is that we had a wonderful organization at Papastratos. And, none of the employees did anything wrong. They have not contributed to the crisis. They were just, as many of us were just the victims of a crisis. And we thought that out of that organizations, one day we can build much better business. So we decided we didn't have to invest at that time, but we decided to stay. And the moment when we saw that the country started seeing the future in front of us, the situation has stabilized, we just immediately followed this with the investments. I mean, all today we invested in Greece about close to €1 billion. One could say it's not much, but that investment, by the way, which we spent in Greece, generates for the Greek government about €1 billion per annum in taxation. So I believe it's a perfect, again, the proof that you can have a mutual benefits. And the only thing which we expected from Greece, and we actually receive it. We didn't receive the subsidies because country has the financial constraints, as everyone knows it. But we had the support and the collaboration from many parties, despite the fact that always, as in politics, you're going from the left to the right to the center, etc. We always could find the group of people who are willing to talk with us, listen to our needs, to our recommendations, and somehow we arrive where we are today. So I believe it's again a perfect example that the private and the public can work together, and everyone is generating its benefits, its returns.
I was wondering, how is the navigation between innovation and regulations for a company like yours? Sometimes regulations create problems, but if they're too rigid, how do you deal with this?
Yeah, so we all, living at the times which triggers a lot of emotions and some almost spiritual type of reactions. And we're coming, unfortunately, we're living also in the times that science and the facts are almost treated like a religion, right? In a sense that, do I believe in a science? I mean, a science is nothing else than the set of objective methods, verifications, formulas, etc. And nobody asks you whether 2 + 2 is 4. Mm-hmm. It's 4. You don't have to believe in it. It is 4. What we are confronted with, maybe because it came from a big tobacco from Philip Morris International, when we said that we can drastically reduce the harm created by smoking, that we can have a product which takes the 95% of the toxicants out of the cigarette smokes, that there is a science and the growing recognition of the science that this is not the nicotine which creates the problem, it's the tar, it's the effect of combustion, and therefore we can actually contribute to solve the problem of smoking. That because that science is coming from Philip Morris, yes, in many corners of the world, people will say, I don't believe you. But it's not about the believing Philip Morris, because we are the big company, but we don't aspire to be any spiritual leader of the world. We're just the business. We just focus on what is our mission, of ours, our vision. Our vision now is to go and to go fully smoke-free. But there is a science. Okay, if you go to the pharmacy and you ask for the drug, for the medicine, you're not really being challenged, you're not challenging the fact that there is a pharma investment or pharma science behind the drug. There is a regulator, assesses the product is safe to use, contributes, delivers the benefit. The same should be in our industry with our products, etc. It's very interesting that the more this debate lasts, the more you start seeing what these products are changing in a population at large. I mean, many may not know yet, but we look at the hospitalization data in Japan and Korea, the countries where we are the longest with this product, and we could see that the hospitalizations due to the COPD, which is one of the disease, which is very strong pulmonary disease, which is very strongly associated with cigarette smoking. After 7 years of a category presence in Japan, the hospitalizations rates are coming down.
So that's not disputable. It's not.
Well, this is now at the almost epidemiological level. You can dispute the things and as long as you want. The problem is you're wasting your time, because that opportunity should be leveraged and accelerated in terms of a benefit that it can generate, rather than keep on, disputing that the science doesn't exist. And actually, the only counter argument is that this is science from Philip Morris. Yes, we paid for the science. Somebody has to pay for the science, but this is very objective. American Food and Drug Administration has authorized several versions of an IQOS, recognizing that this serves the public health objectives, etc. But in some corners of the world, we still have to fight it. But we all remember, not far from here, there was this gentleman a few hundred years ago who was telling us that the sun is in the center, not the earth. And we all remember that he ended very badly. And he was right. So that you are right is the one thing. You need to go and change the opinions, change the perceptions, etc.
We were chatting outside about the big issue of the day, and actually this conference has extensively covered many sides of the Ukraine war. And actually, I was telling you or asking you, how do you assess this situation, both on a human but also on a business level, given the fact that, of course, we're talking about two big markets, I guess, the two countries, and not only the destruction, but also the dent in the sales, I guess? I mean, what's your take on that?
Yes, I mean, we, as many other companies, but we are definitely in the middle of this whole terrible situation. And, many people think that, there are many voices who think the solutions are 0-1, black and white, etc. The only black and white thing in this whole situation is that the war shouldn't take place. And it doesn't matter if it's Russia, Ukraine, or any other place in the world. I think we're living at the time that whatever disputes we have, they shouldn't reach to the level that, people are losing their lives, families are suffering, people are losing their hope for the better life, etc. So this is the only black and white situation, or the only black and white point in the situation. We have invested quite a lot of money, effort, as in Greece for the last 20 years, in Russia for about the same period of times, almost since the perestroika, as was in Ukraine. We have a factory in Kharkiv. Those who follow the evolution of a situation there, it is exactly at the eastern part of Ukraine, when you have a heavy shelling, bombarding, etc. Factory is obviously closed. Our focus, as always in any type of this crisis situations, but to be very frank, I don't think there was ever any company who was prepared for the war, right? If you're doing the classical business risk scenario, etc., I mean, we have proven to each other 3 years ago that we didn't treat the virus seriously until it came, and nobody was really prepared for the war. I don't think there was anybody who was prepared. We focus on people. We have 1,300 people in Ukraine. We help more than 1,000 people with their families to cross the border. Okay, if you imagine what is going on, this is a war scenario, etc., what effort the company had to take in order to help them to go very much from the east of Ukraine, from the entire Ukraine, and then able to Moldova, to Poland, and to other countries, and help them at least to receive the beginning, the support needed. We're all talking about the salary continuations, things like this.
Relocate and stuff
yes,
like
but
that.
you need to give a psychological support to the kids, etc. So this is what we're doing for employees. In Russia, obviously, look, let's be very clear. The world tomorrow cannot look the same as yesterday. I mean, too much of the bad things have happened that the world can, wake up tomorrow and the things will disappear. I think it will have a serious, very significant, serious consequences. We have announced that we significantly started at this stage scaling down our operations in Russia, and we're preparing for the orderly exit of the market. But very few understand what is happening on the Russian side. And Russia is, as we speak, changes the law, which essentially putting all our employees, which is 3,500 people in Russia, under threat of a criminal liability if anything happened to our manufacturing or operations in Russia. So if they see that we start in an abrupt manner stopping the manufacturing, you may guess what is the risk over those people. Maybe we can move to the other subjects because I can go on about
Let's
this
go back to
thing.
Greece, how successful the Greek story is. No, I'm like, and I see the people from Papastratos being thrilled listening to you saying these
They
good
like
things.
me.
So.
They like me. I don't know why.
Yeah, I know. This is a disrupted industry. I was wondering how, as a leading company or as the head of a company like that, can you share with us your experience and the lessons coming out of dealing with this disruption?
Yeah, look, I thought, well, like every CEO stepping into the role, you always think that I'm ready, I am prepared, etc. Well, I think there were a couple of the things I wish I knew before, but when I check with my more seasoned colleagues from other industries, the CEOs, nobody actually was prepared to what is happening these days, so we all equal. Look, the world is changing. The whole concept of a globalization is being very significantly and seriously challenged. The views on a geopolitical stability in the world has changed. Something which were taken for granted, I don't think should be taken for granted. Many things which, one of the lessons I have over my almost 1 year of a tenure as a CEO of PMI, Phillip Morris International, is that when people tell me that something I shouldn't pay attention to something because this will never happen. Mm-hmm. This is like a red flag.
It will happen.
I said, no. I've heard so many times that something will not happen, and exactly these things happen. Bro. You have this management, whatever theory about the black swans. Mm-hmm. Remember this event which happens once in a while, and that's it. I think, frankly speaking, over the last 3 years, we've only seen the black swans, and maybe there was a white swan. So this is where we're living today. And yes, we can complain. I am very positive by nature. I just think we should take it as it is and try to make the best out of this whole thing.
Imagine we are down the road 5-10 years. And we're looking back in hindsight or looking forward on what things would have changed at that point. What kind of a discussion would we have in the Delphi Economic Forum of a decade from now?
Well, decade from now...
You pick the years. Could be 5, 10, 15 years. I'd say decade to be...
Yeah, I think I could see myself standing on the stage here with this beautiful pack of Marlboro and reminding you that it used to be the global best-selling cigarette, and the category doesn't exist anymore. And I think it is doable. I think we are so close to achieve it, and we have no problem doing this, despite the fact that this is the brand which serve the company that well. But I do believe we will come out of this thing as the even more successful, more stronger company. And actually, we rarely talk on these occasions, but this whole movement from a combustible cigarette, solving the problem of smoking, going to the reduced risk products like IQOS and similars, gives us already the platform when we start investing into wellness and healthcare. And I know that for many people, when they hear this from the mouth of a tobacco PMI CEO, it is like unheard of, but this is very realistic. The things which we have learned about the human respiratory system start serving us so well in the ideas and the development of the products in the wellness and the healthcare system. So I actually think 10 years from now, I wish I could retire before that, to be very frank, but
I'm afraid we'll both look a little bit older, but that's besides the point.
I think I think the future, obviously, you know, the more of a dreams you have, the more challenges you have in front of you. By the mere fact that you want to change something, you want to challenge something, you need to go and achieve your success. So that's, you're making your, you know, your life more complicated from that perspective. But I believe rewards for myself, for our employees are so great that everyone is motivated to go and do it.
Your main problem, if I can use that word, would you describe regulation as the main problem in your efforts? Because I think the image is changing. Most people feel that we are moving into a better world. They're not thrilled with cigarettes, but they feel we're moving to something, let me not call it healthier, definitely less dangerous. Are you dealing with that? I mean, do you feel that regulation is the last or the major issue of the day for the industry in general? I'm not confining it.
Well, we're not looking for the world without the regulations, and I believe we all would like to have a, you know, certain degree of trust and you know, reliability of the system. And this is coming from regulations. Obviously, if you're going on if your path, your strategy is about the innovation, and especially if you're going to the completely new territories, to the, you know, areas where never been seen before, products which never been seen before, regulations always are more of the roadblock rather than, you know, the world, our civilization always was regulating the existing reality, but first you need to go and start creating that reality. So at this stage that, you know, people are looking at our product and it looks like a cigarette, it must be a cigarette. Okay, but then, you know, can we go more into this? But also, you know, we see a lot of countries like Greece, when they start looking at the harm reduction in a more broader basis, and, you know, they're connecting very well the dots among the many stakeholders here. You have New Zealand, you have I mean, the whole Central Eastern Europe is actually embracing the concept of a harm reduction faster than maybe Western Europe, I should say, at this stage. But look, every quarter, every year is bringing a positive result. So that's the big challenge. You know, for 60, 70 years, we all have been educated quite rightly that cigarettes is the very bad idea, that, you know, cigarettes are very bad for your health, cigarette kills, we all know it from the health warnings, no questions about it. I actually believe, the company believes that, you know, the whole efforts of, you know, the best thing for a smoker is to quit smoking, that nobody should stop these efforts. But we also have to recognize that most of the people don't, for whatever reasons, and then what we're going to do? Let them smoke or let them go into something which is vastly better? So I think today, tobacco industry is not the only industry which actually is realizing or taking an opportunity from a harm reduction strategy. I mean, the whole discussions which we have about the energy. Okay, look, there always will be a negative impact on the environment. Okay, the only question is, can we minimize the impact while maximizing
the right balance,
the benefit? Yes, but it's so easy in this today's world, you know, going into polarizing the discussions unnecessary to the too much of the extremes. And yes, you know, the headline news of the value of this headline news is very big, but nothing is getting solved. I mean, I could see there is a lot of, you know, the people who spend too much time on exploiting the problem rather than solving the problem. Okay, and the world needs the solution. I mentioned Greece a couple of times, but you know, many other places that we could. It's almost like a case study. If you have all stakeholders acting together and agreeing on the common problem, we will have a solution. Actually, I'm sitting on the seat that I just seen before was Minister of Finance from North Macedonia, and they actually get it as well. And like, you know, it's always difficult for a CEO of a tobacco company to sit in the seat of the Minister of Finance because there is this desire to take more money from our products, but they actually got it very well as well. And you need to reconcile the needs of the farmers. I mean, the same is in Greece. I mean, a farming community in Greece is very important and has to be taken care of. Factories, employees. I mean, we demonstrated in Papastratos we can go from one product to another and don't risk the employment. You have a trade. You have everyone around who is dependent on the one way or another on the industry, and you can have the transformation, but only if we agreed that, first we have a seat at the table, all of us. We all inclusive. We listen to each other, and we find the right solution. And this is doable, okay? But you need to have that will rather than demonstrate that I was right. I mean, you cannot solve the problem by pulling to two extremes. You cannot solve this problem.
On that note, let me note that while we were coming in for the last couple of minutes, I heard so many good things about you from the employees, which says something about you, that you came through the ranks of the company, you're such a great guy, but I'm not going to go there anymore because it's not going to look nice. So thank you very much.
Employees are always objective, yes.
Yeah, exactly, it's a duration. And that concludes this discussion, and we'll move to the next panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.